Amen? Okay.
Ready now.
Yes, ready. Dear all, welcome to Africa TESOL monthly webinar. I'm Flavien, the Professional Development Coordinator of Africa TESOL. The presenter today is Linda Ruas. And you may be asking, who is Linda? Linda is a classroom teacher, a teacher trainer, as well as a material writer. She is also part of TESOL Global C. And today, she is going to present on creating materials, creating change. Linda, thank you for accepting Africa TESOL invitation. I'm always happy to see you there. You have the floor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Flavien. It's a great honor for me to be doing an Africa TESOL webinar. And congratulations, Africa TESOL team, on your wonderful work you've been doing to put the voice of African teachers into the world ELT scene. I think you've been doing excellent work, especially in the lockdown. And I'm very happy to be part of that and to do this webinar today. Okay, I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but first I'd like you to think of a problem, any sort of problem in your country, anything local, social or global, something that you would like to change, and write that in the chat. So what would you like to change in the world? Any ideas? I think there are still some people. Okay, poverty in Senegal. Yes, I quite agree. Any other ideas? Racism from Abigail. Yes. What else? Violence against women. Yes. Representation in textbooks. Yes. Corruption. Wow, they're all coming now. Yes. Okay. More educational technology. Yeah. Any more ideas? Okay, so all of those things are things that we would like to change, and all of those things are things that we can change. We might not be able to make all these problems go away like magic, but we can do something to change them, and we can do that through teaching English. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. My webinar is called Creating Materials, Creating Change. I don't want to disappoint anyone. It's much more about the creating change than about the creating or designing materials. But we're going to look at lots of examples of change that's been created. Okay, right, so that's what we did just now. What would you like to change? And that's quite a difficult question that you have to think about a bit. I've got 3 easier questions for you now. A choice. First question. What's more important? Topics like child marriage, desertification, HIV/AIDS, or present perfect continuous, prepositions of place, and third person S? Which one do you think is more important? The red or the purple? Do you agree with me and that the red is more important? I keep telling my students all the time that it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. What matters is the content, the stuff we're reading about. I hope you agree with me. Second question, what's more interesting? The green ones, alternatives to plastic, peace building, child abuse, or passives, articles, and linkers of contrast? What do you think? What are you more interested in? I think you can imagine what I'm more interested in, and that's the green ones, the global issues. And then the third one, what's easiest to make engaging materials for class about? human rights, racism and gender equality, or reported speech, past continuous and punctuation. I think you can tell by the tone of my voice that I think it's much easier to make engaging materials about the top ones. There's a bit of background noise. I think some people might have their microphones on. Could everyone please mute their microphone, and that makes it easier to hear? Or maybe Flavien, Eamon, you can mute everyone's sound. Okay, so let's carry on. This is the start of this webinar, which is that it's more important, more interesting, and easier to create change by these sort of global issues. I don't know if you were at the Africa TESOL symposium a couple of weeks ago. Something that Erik Ekembe said was, don't feel sorry for Africa, start learning about Africa. And I think that's a brilliant thing to say to the world. And it's what I started doing. And the result of my learning about Africa, my starting to learn, is the two publications I'm going to be sharing with you. There's a mathematical equation here. That quote by Erik Ekembe plus the Hornby Trust Decentering ELT initiative, which is all about making the local teachers who know what they're doing the centre of their teaching, rather than getting international experts from the UK or the US. Giving a voice to the local teachers who know what's going on. Harry's quote plus the Hornby Trust Decentering equals 2 Global Issues SIG publications. And these publications are free, and you can download them after the webinar and read as much as possible from them. Here are the 2 publications. And the aims of this webinar are firstly to show how simple materials can create change in ELT, and also to showcase some of the materials in these 2 publications. So the one on the right, the orangey browny one called Creating Change, that's already been published. That was published in April this year. You can find it on the Global Issues SIG website, and that's in the middle on the left-hand side of the page here, gsig.iatefl.org. Make a note of that and go to the publications part, and you can read it all. The second publication, the one in green, this time it's Creating Global Change. That is going to be published next month, and that will be on the same website and for free. We do have a special offer at the end of the webinar, so stick with us. And if you're on Facebook Live as well, welcome to people joining us on Facebook Live. You're very welcome to join in the special offer at the end or on the recording, but I won't tell you about that yet. Okay, so let's first have a little success story about materials creating change from Guinea Bissau. I've been working with teachers there for a few years, and they have no materials in Guinea Bissau. Government doesn't produce any materials for them at all. Also, they have no money for photocopying. Teachers have to pay for their own copies on a very low salary, or charge the students who have no money. They did have time in lockdown, and they do have a great interest in social issues, local issues, and global issues. Okay, so what did we do? These are some of the topics we've been discussing in the WhatsApp group we have. Some negative, problematic topics, some positive topics like microcredit, small businesses, the cashew nut harvest. They're all local things though, and they're all about specific social, local and global issues. One of the students invented a lemon juice generator. So what did we do? We discussed all the topics, then we chose and assigned topics to each other. People chose the topics they were most interested in, and they each wrote some short texts, and some of them wrote questions as well about that issue. We got them all together, and I and a couple of others edited them and assigned them to the different grades, and we put them into a format you see in the picture with my hand holding the folded sheet of paper. We put 6 texts to a page, 1 on each little page of the folded booklet, printed them, folded them up, and they're ready for the students at the beginning of the term. And these are pictures of teachers in Guinea-Bissau with their photocopies. Global Issues SIG actually gave them some money for printing these materials that they'd produced themselves. So a very easy thing to do, very effective in creating change. So now back to the publications. There's the website again, if you've forgotten it. This is the first publication, and those are the countries who authors from all those countries wrote materials for the book. And there are materials and lesson ideas. If you have any questions to any of the authors in the topics I'm going to tell you about, please put your questions in the Q&A box. And then we've got a panel halfway through this webinar to answer the questions, and then another one at the end from the second publication. So please write your questions whenever you want. Okay, so on to the materials. Have a look at this story. Shocking story, but maybe not so shocking to those of you who are used to these types of situations. This is a story about a 12-year-old girl who had to get married. This is child marriage, and she had no choice. This is one of the stories we discussed in Guinea-Bissau in the article by Brimer. And this is an example of some of the work that we can do with short texts. We can translate them, discuss them. We can decide in groups on the causes, decide on the action we can take, on the various options of the people, and we can do role plays from these texts. Very simple lesson idea, just a short text about a social issue. And it might actually change that issue by making people more aware of the specific problems and the options. What about this one? Now this is typical language practice for advice or suggestions. Look at the list on the left, and these are typical situation cards that you find in a course book or in lesson materials, yeah? Then look at the ones on the right, these change situation cards. Now these were written by another teacher in Guinea-Bissau. This is by Venancio. And these are a tiny little change on the materials front, but a huge change in the idea of social, local and global problems, because they're discussing real things, real issues that students have. And you might find a solution to one of these problems. And it brings these taboo topics into the classroom as well. Okay, what about this one? Moving on now to Togo. This is an article by Dalloc. And the government in Togo decided to integrate environmental issues into the new curriculum. And here's a couple of great examples of the type of activities that they put in the course books. So the first one, a very easy type of exercise to do, scrambled sentences. They just have to put the words in order, but they're all about the environment, about protecting the environment. So they actually make students think about what we should do, shouldn't do, how to protect the environment. The one on the right, the grade 8, now this is about throwing plastic on the ground, plastic, rubbish, pollution, and using advice to stop people doing that. So this is really, really meaningful. Next one, we've got a great article by Dorothée about the Benin English Club Summit. And if you just have a little look at the topics in this English Club Summit, all the topics for debate, all the topics for the drama, and of course, these are all global issues. They're all really real topics that have meaning to everyone, and the sort of thing that people can learn from, think about, and create change in society. One of the big things that comes out of the articles in the book is that it's often more effective to let all the students do the work. It's actually much easier for the teacher as well if we work the lesson that way. So we're not providing all the materials. Now this example, this is Fadidak's article from Cameroon about drugs. And he did lots of projects about drugs with the students. And that was a big problem in his area of Cameroon. And he got them to write this anti-drug manifesto. So they all decided what they wanted to put in the manifesto. He gave them help with the language they needed. And this was their ideas to stop drugs in their school and to pledge to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. That's a huge step for the school to get them to do that in their English lessons. And the other one here on the right, this is from Marta from Zambia about child abuse. Terrible topic, something we really need to do something about. And she did a project with the students where they were making posters in discussing what to do with child abuse. And they made this poster, what if you're in the restroom and someone tries to touch you, what should you do? And then here's the answer, say no, get away and tell someone. So this could actually help protect children from abuse, all through English classes. Another one where the students did all the work. This one is by Erik in Cameroon. And he did quite a big long-term project over a few weeks on malaria, cholera, AIDS. And he got the students in groups to research, to find out everything they could about them, and then to find out all the English from other teachers in the school and from dictionaries and looking it up. And they created all these posters and gave short presentations. Lots of incorrect English, but it doesn't matter. It made English come alive for them. And it was something that they wanted to find out the information about. And lots of these lessons are the 3 M's: memorable, motivating, and meaningful. I think that summarizes what some of the most successful English lessons are. We want the students to remember what we're doing, not another old boring lesson that's the same as always, but something memorable, something motivating with a reason to use English or a reason to write, speak, read, and something meaningful, which has meaning to everybody in the class, something they can relate to. This one here by Celita in Cabo Verde. She wanted to address the growing problem of teenage pregnancy in Cabo Verde. And she wanted the students to come up with solutions instead of her just telling them not to get pregnant, for example. She also had a grammar lesson to teach, which was on comparatives and superlatives. And she thought of the brilliant idea of getting the girls in groups to write comparative sentences about girls and boys, and the boys in groups to also write comparative sentences about girls and boys. She helped them with the language, and they learned so much about each other, about what each wants from a relationship, about how they can please each other and not get pregnant. So that was a very good solution, which created a lot of change and raised awareness. Some of the best lessons, I always feel, have no materials at all. Now, these are some other articles from the publication. We've got a lovely article about a debate on being vegetarian. I know that's not a big option for many people, not a big choice for many people across Africa, but Crystal in Benin, he did this debate and he got them thinking about the pros and the cons, and they did all the research themselves, and they've even found themselves arguing for the benefits of being vegetarian by the end, which was amazing. In DRC, we had Joseph and John doing discussions about Ebola in English clubs, which really helped people understand what to do, how real the threat was. And this was just talking about the issue of Ebola. Christopher's projects in Uganda, this is to give students some business sense, raising rabbits, making paper bags. The picture there underneath is their project of making paper bags, which really helps them to get an idea of business. And then the taboo topics like menstruation, which is very rare to come into the classroom. Our 2 authors, Catherine from Tanzania and Fatih from Mali, They wrote about how to get people to talk about menstruation, how to learn about it, and using poems and songs, for example. And you can read their chapters. Okay, so I'm going to invite those teachers now to join the panel, and I'd like us to ask them some questions. These sorts of questions. The main thing is, what change did they create? So I'm going to stop sharing for a while, and I'll share again after this. And let's see who we've got here. So the people from the first publication, so not Sylvia, Mohamedou, and Paula, the others, would you like to put your video on and your audio? And not Gabriella either, you're in the second one. Okay, so we've got some people here. Not Paula yet. Paula, you're in the second half. And not Sylvia yet. Sylvia, you're in the second half. Okay, great. So, Catherine, Dalok, Erik, okay, great. So, would you like to start by telling everyone what change you created? Hezuel, you're sitting there smiling away, so I'll start with you. Would you like to briefly talk about the change you created in your article?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Linda. It was really an inspiring moment coming up with the article. And the biggest change that I think I created, that I saw, was awareness about plastic use amongst the learners, and of course within the community. And though I couldn't quite interact the way I wanted with my learners because of the COVID pandemic, online and by phone, as we communicated, they became aware of the dangers of plastic, especially in the environment. And even their behavior, as they said, because I didn't have a chance to see it, but as they said, they would use one plastic bag several times going to the shops. And I think that's a huge change there. And some of them...
Congratulations, yeah, that was great. And it's a lovely poetic article all about litter that you wrote with a text as well, wasn't it? So great,
Sure,
great
yes,
change, yeah.
Yeah, it was about litter. Thank you.
Great. Let's have a lady now. What about Catherine? Catherine from Tanzania, can you tell us briefly about the change you created?
Wow, thank you so much, Linda. I'm so happy to be in this webinar to share how I use the creative material to bring changes in my community. I used to teach menstrual hygienic education to my students, and the changes which are brought to this community and the society and the students by it's when they are being able to understand their body changes. As before, many of the youth or the boys and girls, they didn't understand what is going on during their changes. So most of them, they have been running in the bad risky behavior without knowing what caused them to go in those risky behavior. So during my teaching, menstrual hygienic management, they come up and realizing what makes them to develop changing within their bodies. And by understanding themselves, they know how to come up and being away from those bad behavior. Also, given that many girls, they're missing school and they're not comfortable during the menstruation. So after receiving this education of menstrual management, now many of girls, they are comfortable to come to school and receiving the education the same as boys. So when we're talking about equality and equal, this is there because most of them they become aware and understand that they should stay at school even though they are a menstrual period.
Yeah, this is a great change. Yeah, it's great change because it actually gets girls staying on at school, doesn't it, when they'd leave? So that's brilliant. Yeah.
The community, that is the teachers, the parents, and the adults. Now they become aware because of the economic status. You can find that only women or the mothers of the girls are the one who's supposed to buy pads for the girls. But after providing this education to both, now you may find that even man or the father of the family is there to help a girl to get these pads which can help them during their menstruation.
Excellent, excellent. And this is actually ending a big, huge taboo, isn't it? That nobody talked about or everybody laughed about. So this is a really big change. That's great.
Yes. Then lastly, changes which I created during teaching this menstrual management is that they become aware and they understanding themselves. Sometimes they feel shy even to touch their pattern of their bodies, and they feel shy to say what is happening to their bodies. But after getting this education, by teaching them through songs and poems, now they realize that their bodies, their pattern of their bodies, their private parts is the normal, but they're supposed to keep them privately because they are private. So it is clear to understand what is the meaning of to be private, but
Yes.
not to feel shy when someone is making an illegal in your part of the body.
So it's also protecting them from child abuse and increasing confidence. So many changes. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on to Erik. You're sitting there patiently. What change did you create briefly?
Yes, a lot to the best of my knowledge, Linda. If you permit, let me just comment on my background. I'm sitting in a classroom. If you see this wooden classroom, I choose this background today because we believe that if it must work, then everything must be perfect. And this is a position where it is a place where students come in to learn, and we should be able to use structures like this to get the children develop change agenda, know that 5-10 years they can learn in a place that is better than this. So this is a classroom that is meant for underprivileged students, and I decided to use it today for this discussion. In Africa, we have this root belief that change must come from the top, especially teachers. And teachers feel like they are not agents of change, that they can't change anything. And particularly in ELT, we feel like it's about learning about the verb, the noun, the adjective, the comparative and the superlative, and not using the very things that are around the learners to facilitate both learning the language and causing change around our environment. Now, from this understanding, I tried this change project, not necessarily because I didn't understand what impact it would create, but because I thought that it is also very important to create this change instinct in the learners. And also because I thought that with the publication like this, colleagues around the world and colleagues around me, if this is well disseminated, they could also develop change agenda and start change initiatives around within their classrooms. And we know very well that big change starts with the active population, the learners. If they're involved in change initiatives, in change agenda, we're going to have significant change in our society. Not just the change we see, but change in mentalities. And this is very, very important. And this kind of change, we can have it through global issues and through ELT, because we already have geography that teaches them landscape. We have biology that teaches them respiratory tract. But all of these are found in ELT. So if we have to incorporate all of this, particularly kind of things which students find around themselves, especially global issues, I'm very confident that we can receive significant change within the shortest period of time. Now, this
already
is what I did in my
making.
learners.
Yeah, I think we need to move on to Rukia now, because we haven't got that much time. Can we move on to Rukia? Because yours was about dealing with suicide, wasn't it? Can you unmute yourself? Rukia, a minute to talk about the change you created.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. The problem that I talked about was suicide, and what made me talk about suicide was because when the exams, every time after our examination period, especially the primary and the secondary, that's how we call them here, we get to learn of so many suicides that are happening. So we've always been complaining and lamenting, but I thought, okay, why don't we take action? So we did some activities with a school called Kariobangi SDA, whereby we actually used games, like in an English club, whereby we did some games, English games, and also did some gratitude exercises, a way of showing them that there is hope in life. And out of this activity, they actually went ahead and started a club on their own, which they run on their own. And they are happy because they've actually started being aware of themselves, and they stopped defining themselves with the results that they get. And they're actually even performing better. With the COVID now, we had to stop the one-on-one physical meetings. We are thinking of how we can continue with these English clubs online. But even before the COVID, they were so excited, and they had started now thinking of other topics. They discussed early pregnancies, and the confidence I see in them is really exciting. That feeling that, yeah, whatever it is that they discuss in those clubs is something that really matters, and it's something that they can relate to because they see it happening in life.
And it's really empowering, isn't it? And to help with the problem of potential suicides is a wonderful thing. Thank you. Ruki is from Kenya. Yeah, great. How about Dalok? You were working with the environment. Briefly, the change that you've created, Dalok?
Yeah, my video is not shown here.
Don't worry.
Yeah, but actually the change we created is to engage. Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking about the change that we created. It was to start from the pollution and move to the introduction, in the inclusion of some of the topics related to environment in the national curriculum. So when I came to that school, I saw that the school was very dirty. When you look at the picture, it is not very good. And I started organizing some students in the afternoons for us to go around the school and pick some sachets, pick some rubbish. And later on, we engage students to be like security men for their own friends. Like when you are having some sachet in your hands, you cannot have access to the classroom. Or if you drop a sachet on the school compound, you have a penalty. And from there, we moved to other schools where we set up Speak English environment clubs. And I started organizing some competitions and giving some token prizes to encourage those students to learn English and motivate them to clean the environment. And
Excellent.
later on, we talked to the government to try to include this type of environment cleanliness in the school curriculum. And from 2017 until now, we are having 3 years now to go with the new curriculum, which is using the icon of environment cleanliness in the school curriculum. But we still have a long way to go because we need to go. Many schools are coming to say, so your school is an example, the school is clean, people are happy, people are not falling sick like in the past. So what did the security come and set up English speaking environment club in our areas? And that's what we're doing before we
it's true. We have a long way to go in everything, don't we?
Yeah, because we started in the capital. In the other regions, they still need we still need to set up these environment English clubs. Yeah. So this is the change we brought. Like, okay, and what is very important is from this small English club, we were able to create a national competition of English club in Togo, and it is based on our first English club that we organized.
Right. Little parts, and
so the great change. Yeah, that's great. It. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Fatty here. Can we hear you, Fatty? I think the connection is not very stable in Mali. Can we hear you? So Fatimata from Mali, I think the connection is not very stable, she's just said. Oh, she sent me something by WhatsApp, so I shall read her contribution. Right, she has said, change started with me because while I was asking, I asked myself, how can I make the change? She spoke to groups of women and groups of students about menstruation, and they decided to discuss it, a totally taboo topic, with their younger sisters and ask questions to their mothers. She used a short story in class to introduce the topic and poems to get students to write their own poems about menstruation. So congratulations to Fatty as well. Sorry we can't see her or hear her. There's one question on the Q&A that I'd like to ask you, which is, this is from Finwia. Who proposes the topics for discussion? So who decides which global issues or local issues or social issues we bring into class? We've only got about 2 minutes for this. We need to move on. Who wants to answer? Erik?
Can I share from my experience? We agreed with my learners what was most important for them as learners and as human beings. And they told me the kind of things that the problems which are facing the communities are. So we had these problems factored in into the language lessons, and agreed on a time frame what we're going to do to be able to deal with these issues. We talked about malaria, AIDS, and we took this up with the students and agreed on what we have to do. And when these learners are part of this decision making, they find a lot of motivation in doing it. I can share a few experience. My learners, by the time we're wrapping up with the project, which we all agreed on, said they made statements on things they had learned throughout the whole process. And when I sat back and I said, these are people who said, don't langue. So that already was a change of mentality. They told me that they could go to the communities, they use the chief. We have local chiefs in villages, in quarters, and churches, and tell people that it is the environment can be clean. So if they are involved in the decision-making process of what you do in the classroom, they find interest in it and they take it up without any pressure. I think this is what is very important. But if you come from outside and say, I want us to do this, yes, if you're not careful enough, you have to be mounting pressure along the line because they don't understand you all the time.
Exactly. I think they have to buy into it, don't they? They have to come from the students, and then the students can decide what they want to work on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Do you agree in your classroom, Hesiwell, Catherine? Who decides on the issues? Hesiwell?
Most of the times the learners will decide, but particularly, let me confess, about this article, I decided what to write about, but the building up of everything and came from the learners because they really contributed ideas and their own perspectives as well. So eventually it became something that they owned.
And something like litter involves everyone anyway, doesn't it? You can't live in life without litter, and yes, and it's something all around it.
And I could tell some of the ideas were even coming from the community, from the parents as well. So I'm sure this eventually evolved everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on now to the second half. So I'm going to share my screen again now, and we might have some more time for questions at the end, but we need to, I'm afraid, go into the second publication. Okay, so I'll share my screen again and give a little introduction to the next part, and then we'll meet a few people from the second publication. Okay, there's a lot to get through. Okay, so we thought that was so successful, the Creating Change publication from Africa, that we decided to do a global one. So this second one, which is coming out next month, is called Creating Global Change. If you have a look at the map, you can see all the countries, and there's something slightly strange about that map. Can anyone notice what it is? Of course, it's upside down. Okay, so this is an upside down map of the world, and this is relating how we in global issues like to turn things on their heads. We like to question things. We don't like to take things for granted. And it's a new view, a new way of looking at something we've been looking at for a long time the other way. So these are the countries who, whose authors participated in the second Creating Global Change. That's going to be published September 2020, and it will be on our Global Issues SIG website under publications for free for everyone to access. Let's have a look at some of the stories from that and some of the change that was created. Who knows where Yamalia is? Okay, let's have a look back at the map so you can use that. Now it's right at the bottom, which means it's right in the far north. It's right at the top of Russia. Okay, so we've had Eugene from Yamalia, who has written a lovely article all about national identity, customs, traditions, and indigenous languages. And this has reminded me of a lot of things that lots of people say in many countries in Africa about local, not world issues. So he says, we sincerely believe that it's invaluable for any person to be able to tell a foreign friend or business partner not only about the main sites of their country's capital, but also about the place they actually come from. So we teach students to love and appreciate their home region, preserve everything that makes it distinctive and original. And I think a lot of people would like to do that for their students, to value their local, value, for example, the traditions in Guinea Bissau, and make people proud of their country. Okay, another one here is from Mexico, and this is by Sergio. And he's been part of a really interesting, oh, sorry, I just want to say about this book from Yamalia, and they produced a whole book full of materials about the local area and languages and customs and traditions. And you can get that for free if you go to the Yamelta website, a wonderful example of how to produce local materials in ELT. And yes, so on to Mexico. And this article about refugees in Mexico is part of a project Sergio was involved in, called Raise Up for ELT. There's a link there. It was all written by volunteers, edited and published by volunteers, and the proceeds, not very much, it's quite cheap, go to charity. So it's a lovely premise for a book. It's all about including topics that most published materials don't include, including about refugees. And they're looking at topics in a really new type of way. Look at this material here. It's a lot of tweets from Twitter. And we're thinking about whether the tweets make people feel welcome or unwelcome, and about identity and othering of refugees. Very interesting material to make students think. Then we've got some lots of topics actually from Argentina, involved in the comprehensive sexuality education by Gabriela and Paula. And they're training teachers to bring these issues into class via, for example, fairy tales. And they look at fairy tales and look at the gender stereotypes in fairy tales. So they start questioning things. For example, that prince, you know the story of Prince Charming in Sleeping Beauty. She's asleep. He leans over and kisses her. Why did he do that? He didn't ask permission. What you've got to do is to get permission. You shouldn't kiss people when they don't want you to, when they haven't asked you to, when they don't even know that you're kissing them. So this is about what other options he could have done. He could have tapped her. He could have talked to her. Okay, it's about sexuality, getting people in touch with their sexuality and knowing what's allowed and what's not in today's society through the fairy tales. Simple materials, but creating a lot of change. Now on to the more serious topics. We've got a couple of articles in the publication about conflict in Africa. Patrice in Mali has put together a lovely series of lessons about terrorism, and very simple materials. It's basically photographs to show the students and a few pair and group tasks to get them to think about them and what they can do about it, what they can do to help. and to work out their plans from the photographs. Very shocking, but very real, and something that they are so interested in. And then the Peace Building in Cameroon by Gladys and Harriet. They're teacher trainers, and they got a Hornby Trust funding grant for this project. They developed these 5 modules to help people recover and build peace. How the teacher should handle the psychosocial problems, the positive side, building the messages of peace, the inclusivity, meeting all the different learning styles, remedial teaching, catching up all the classes that were missed through the conflict, and the professional and personal development of the teachers. So a huge amount of change created there where change was really needed. There are many others in that publication. In Mexico, Tanya talks about mindfulness and how mindfulness gets her to bring topics like the environment and women role models. There are some lesson plans there from Tanya in Mexico. In India, Ravati was talking about transgender people in India, and even did role plays in the class. Very simple role plays between transgender people in the classroom to get people to understand the roles. Maria from Greece, this is really important to bring global issues into classes with children. And she's done that very successfully with lots of activities and lots of simple materials to get children just to think about what their human rights are. Sylvia from Poland does a lot of environmental work with her I've Got an Eco Idea, and actually making things in class, making plastic bottles. And again, this is with children, which is really important to start young and to create the change, and then they create change in all their families. A couple more people have written about the environment. Hamida from Libya and Stephanie from France have written about the environment in their context, and lots of materials they've created. They've both done the course in ELT Sustainable that I'll tell you about in a minute to help them learn how to create materials. And then Mohamedou in Senegal has written about service learning, change through service learning in the English clubs. So loads of great articles you'll be able to read when that comes out next month. A little aside here, Flavien, who introduced me from Africa TESOL, he's also working on a set of course books. These are in progress. I've been privileged to see. And look at the number of topics there. This is for Benin. It's lots of texts, vocabulary, contextualized grammar exercises about all these amazing topics of local, social, global interest, and building this value of the African. Okay, I did promise a special offer. So here's the special offer. So the offer is 3 free places on the next ELT Sustainable course. If you look up ELT Sustainable, you'll see the website, and Owen, who runs it, he is offering 1 free place to an African teacher. Global Issues SIG are offering 2 free places. This course starts on the 22nd of September. Of course, it's not in person, it's online, so you need access to the internet. It takes about 4 hours a week, could be a bit more, a bit less. It lasts only 2 weeks, and it's a very creative course. If you would like a free place on this course, then please email us at GSIG. The email address is there in red, GISIG @iatufl.org. And I want you to write up to 30 words about why you want to do that course. Please send it to us by the end of August, which is when? Next Monday, I think. And we're going to select people on the need to do the course, why you need to create materials, your interest, and so we get the balance of countries right, so we don't have 3 people from 1 country, for example. Okay, we hope to get lots of applicants for that. Of course, people watching on Facebook, of course, you're welcome to apply. Now we have a little bit of time left to ask questions to the authors of this latest book, Creating Global Change. I think we have Gabriella and Paula here, and Mohamedou and Sylvia. I've got my email there for you to see. It's very easy, lindaruas@hotmail.com. Please contact me if you've got questions. And our Global Issues website there, again, in case you need it. I'd like to invite Gabriella, Paula, Mohamedou and Sylvia now to reveal themselves on their video. And first to briefly say something about the change you've created. Then we'll have time for a few questions. Okay, so Sylvia, you appeared first. Would you like to tell us about the change you created? You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. So, hello. I feel very honored to be here, and the change that I create has a few aspects, and the first aspect refers to the habits children develop attending these classes. And I think it is very important to help children develop appropriate habits that will prevent the Earth from further destruction. Yes, because the planet now is destroyed to such an extent that our survival is threatened. Yes, so I deeply believe it is our huge responsibility to help children develop good habits for them to lead good lives in the future. What happens is some simple things like they really stop using plastic shopping bags. The other thing is that they stop buying bottled water and bottled drinks. They start drinking tap water, which is quite new in Poland. And because we make a lot of toys out of plastic and out of paper, they are less eager to buy plastic toys. And they really want to save paper, okay? Because we develop, I would say, a kind of love for nature, for trees. So they really save paper, and they are very proud of it.
Great,
And
loads of change. I think we need to move on to Paula and Gabriella now. Can we have something from you about the change you've created briefly? Who wants to go first? Sorry, Sylvia's from Poland. Paula and Gabriella are from Argentina.
Hello, Linda. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. I will briefly tell you about the law in Argentina that frames the lessons and materials that we create, and then Paul will tell you about what we do in our classes, okay? So you mentioned before comprehensive sexuality education, and this is a law which was passed in Argentina in 2006, and it observes that sexuality involves different aspects such as biological, psychological, social, affective, and ethical ones. And it also establishes the right of all students to receive comprehensive sexuality education. So the aim of CSE and the program is to empower students to become active citizens by providing them with tools to develop critical thinking skills and also to make informed decisions about different aspects of their lives. So CSE goes beyond the biological standpoint and includes a wide range of topics such as relationships, rights, gender violence, gender equality, women empowerment, gender diversity, among others. And as language teachers, we have the possibility of bringing these topics through CLIL, or content and language integrated learning. So we are teaching the language through or with the topics I mentioned before. And we always make sure that we create spaces to reflect with our students upon the issues dealt with in class.
Great. And Paula?
Okay. My turn now. Thank you, Linda. Hello, everybody. Well, as Gabi said, CSE gives us the opportunity to deal with topics that certainly contribute to social change. But the issues that CSE covers, some of these issues are generally regarded as controversial or taboo. So there is little material produced for the English classroom for some topics. And even when there is, many a time we need to adapt it to suit our contexts. So when we plan our lessons, what we do is to create our own material or adapt ready-made materials such as course books, where most of the topics that CSC covers tend to be edited out, right? Especially, as Gabi said before, those related to gender, like gender identity, gender diversity, gender-based violence. So we do this with our students in primary school, secondary school, and also in teacher education programs. In fact, our contribution is about a lesson on gender stereotypes and consent, carried out at the local teachers training college during lockdown. And as CSC, as Gabi was saying, is both content and skills, and it is also learner-centered. When we create our lessons and with materials, we try to provide students with spaces to actually practice critical thinking skills through activities and topics which are relevant to their needs and to their interests. We have a law, but we also truly believe that dealing with these topics contributes not only to social change, but social justice as well, because our students are acquiring scientifically accurate information and knowledge on a variety of topics, but we are also giving them the tools to advocate for themselves and to advocate for others. Excellent. And also exercise their rights.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Isn't it wonderful to find out all these things that are going on all over the world and to have all these articles together in one publication? I think this is wonderful. I've learned so much from this, from everybody all around the world. And we have one more person here, Mohamedou from Senegal. Would you like to, can you make yourself visible? Or can you speak? Mohamedou, are you there? Maybe he can't. Okay, so any questions? Flavien, which question? Oh, Mohamedou is here. Would you like to tell us briefly about the change you created? No, maybe it's raining in Senegal. Flavien, which question? We've only got a couple of minutes.
Yes, first of all, I would like to congratulate you, Linda, for this original webinar. I also thank the co-presenters. I have some questions indeed. The first one is, someone would like to know those topics you work on are originated from where? This is the first question. Linda, could you answer that?
I think some of the people at the end of the last half, I've answered that very well. Erik did, when he was talking about working with the students to get the students to talk about what they want to talk about. And I often get in my classroom, get them to list all the problems in the world and order them and rank them and see which ones we're going to look at first. So this comes from them. What do you think, Paula? Did your topics come from the students or?
Sorry. Yeah, well, as CSC is learner-centered, we try to choose topics that are relevant to their needs, as I said before, and generally we ask them, right, which topics they would like to deal with through surveys, for example. And yes, when possible, we try to include topics that they choose, that they want to work with, because that is also connected with motivation, right? They are more motivated to work with topics that they experience in their everyday lives, and if those topics emerge from their own decisions, so much the better.
I wonder about children. Sylvia, you're working with children. Do they come up with the idea of working with sustainability and plastic?
Yes, definitely. They come up with lots of ideas, because when we start working with different materials, I ask them to think what they would like to make next class, and what ideas do they have? What can we make out of plastic, out of paper, out of plastic tops and cardboard, sticks, and many stuff. So it's very often that we deal with what they come up with.
Excellent, great. Any more questions, Flavien? I don't know if we need to end now or if we've got more time.
The The second question has to do with how to make an interactive classroom. I don't know if it has a link with our topic today, but as an expert, I'll dare to give you the floor and provide an answer to this attendee. Linda, you have the floor.
Okay, how to make the topics interactive. Now, if you look at these two publications, you'll see the energy in all these topics, and from the seriousness and the importance of the material, it really engages students. All the tasks, all the materials are really, really interactive, because people are dealing with something that's around them, and it's now, and it's real, and it's meaningful, and it's memorable, and it's motivating.
Okay, so is the floor mine?
Yes.
Okay. The next question has to do with how those materials you have then cited here, especially Abigail would like to have access on the material on transgender, and she's asking where to get that.
Okay, the publication is going to be published next month. It'll be on the Global Issues SIG website for free. Just look at the Global Issues website. Where can you find it? Someone in the chat is asking. Not published yet, next month. You've got to be patient.
Okay. Our third questions, fourth question, yes, third question I would say has to do with the fight against corruption. And Muhammad would like to know how those students work with identify corruption, those topics like pollution, and how do they find solution to the awareness that they are erasing.
Okay, none of the articles are specifically about corruption in either of the publications. I don't know if anyone would like to talk about that, any of you? The people from the first publication, you're very welcome to join in. Erik, Rukia, Dalok, Heziwell,
Yeah.
Catherine. Erik, would you like to talk about corruption?
Yeah, sure.
Class?
Yes, Linda, you getting me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes. The students, one of the most interesting things we should know is that the students know about corruption, and sometimes we think they don't know. And if there is a way of getting them identify the causes of corruption and how it works, and then designing solutions, that could be a very interesting thing in a classroom. I had this experience of students who told me in the 2006, I was in the classroom and I was trying to get them think about different topics. And I asked about the question of you being attacked at night by armed robbers. What do you do? And they told me, well, they look for ways of surviving. I said, but wouldn't you call the police? They told me, oh, you can't call the police because you call them, they won't come in time. And they want to come only when the thieves have gone away. I didn't know they have this information, just to say that if you keep away corruption from the classroom, they'll grow in corruption. But if you bring into the classroom and get them find ways of dealing with it, they will leave the classroom and tell the people out there that corruption is a bad thing. And so it's a very crucial issue to deal with. One of the ways you could do is, in a classroom, for example, tell them, you got a pen, it's not yours, what do you do with it? Where do you keep it? Or you got wrong change, you were given wrong change, what do you do with it? You could then get in the language aspect into it. It's so easy to handle in the classroom. For example, if I tell them, you went to the market, you bought a pair of jeans and 50 pounds in it. What do you do with the 50 pounds? And they tell you, okay, I'm going to use it. You could introduce the if conditional. If I see 50 pounds in the trousers, which doesn't belong to me, I will give it back to the owner. And so you bring some of these areas that are related to corruption. There is always the language dimension that we used to introduce in the classroom. I don't know if you need more, I could add more.
It's great to link the language with the issues, isn't it? Like the conditional with the corruption. I think that's the key probably in teaching.
Exactly.
with global issues. Yeah, great. Flavien, any more?
Alternatively, if you ask students, okay. If you in my country, I ask students, people who were recently arrested by the state, and they're able to tell me, I said, why were the people arrested? Because of corruption. Would you want to be arrested? They said no. So we are looking at things that have recently happened, and you'll be talking about the present perfect tense.
Okay.
For example.
Any more questions?
Yes, we're going to answer the last question. Yes, because of time issue. Well, someone is raising here the issue of large classes. And in some contexts, students are not ready to buy materials. And as now an expert in material writing, how could we solve that issue, especially by looking at extracurricular activities? Thank you.
I think Mahamadou, is connecting to the audio. He's from Senegal and they teach classes of 70, 80 people there with extracurricular after school clubs. Can you speak, Mahamadou, on this? I think he's still connecting to the audio.
Linda, if you permit, I can share an experience from Cameroon, not the one I did, a Camelta member did.
If somebody else could answer it, that might be better.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyone else on that? Large classes? The example from Guinea Bissau at the beginning of the presentation, at the beginning of the webinar, that was really cheap, no materials, no money to buy materials. It's just a very simple way of getting text written by teachers. Anyone else want to answer that? Erik, why don't you finish then?
Yes. Itan Difon, a Kameta member, created books, mini books. Students worked with students and students created mini books. Those books were enough material that could be used for reading. The process of creating the books for everyone, if a class of 100 students to work together to create books, you can contain them because if the topics are interested, they'll be interested in writing the books. And when they see the product, it's a different game changer. They feel empowered, they feel like doing more. And I just want to use this opportunity to say that the whole idea of large classes has been in the minds of African teachers. And we keep talking about large classes. The classes are never going to get smaller. The better we start thinking, the earlier we start thinking of how to manage large classes, it's the better we get as teachers. If we continue to think that because the classes are large, we won't teach, can one teacher give me an example of a change in methodology they used because the class was small? There has been little evidence demonstrating that because a class is small, you're going to become a better teacher. Well, in some contexts, in some circumstances, that may be possible. But overall, if we don't start developing ideas, indigenous ideas on how to contain large classes, we keep talking about large classes, why the classes keep swelling up. It's not a very difficult task to handle. It takes creativity. I've just cited an example of many books that were created in Cameroon.
Yeah, an example there is your article in the first publication where you're working in students with groups. Group work
exactly
might be a solution there.
Exactly.
Back to Flavien.
And
Flavien?
Hello?
Flavien?
Thank you, Linda, co-presenters. Yes, thank you, Linda, and co-presenters.
Thank you very much for allowing
this,
us
webinar.
Thank you for allowing us to present our publications and our ideas.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
This presentation, all right, we have learned how to make simple materials in order to make an interactive classroom. I hope that Linda will come again for another idea of webinar next time and interact with Africa TESOL members. Thank you. And I don't know if you have a final word. You have a floor.
Me?
Flavien?
Thank you so much.
Linda?
Please have a look at the Global Issues SIG website. Please join us. I saw one question in the chat saying, how can you send us your material so you can be included in future publications? Right, we're always looking for future publications and for our eZine Futurity. So send us any materials you've got that you're writing about similar projects. Rose has just put the website, link to the website in the chat. So lovely to meet you all. Been brilliant working with the two groups of teachers for the publications, and best wishes to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
And